Would this explain a little bit of the panic among the elite ranks of today? Would this explain that why so much stuff's being pushed on us in such a short time? Do they feel this coming round the corner, Si? Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be. Thanks for tuning in to White Mirror. I do believe this is episode 14, Simon. Before we get started, I'm very orange. I swear I've not been on a sunbed. I swear that I've got some sort of Trumpy thing going on with the camera. Before we get going, as always, please like, subscribe, and share our content far and wide. If you're enjoying it, thank you so much for that. Simon, what are we doing today?
Well, Dave, shall we do an episode called No Turning Back?
I think we are already. It looks good.
So basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, but it doesn't really matter what you think of Bitcoin. I know what you think of Bitcoin, Dave.
Yeah, I think
You're
I missed the boat. I missed it.
right. But this episode isn't about cryptocurrency.
Okay.
And if you're watching and you're not interested in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. I just want you to give me a minute longer, and you too, Dave, to tell you why it's far bigger and far more important than cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. It's about decentralization. And that's what the whole of this channel is about. Okay. So
Yep.
I guess that people really should be interested at least a little bit in the battle for who gets to control money generally, okay? And who's acting as the puppet master. Because this is about the system generally, and it's about the matrix, more or less, but it's definitely about the systems of control. And it's about the power structures within the world as they are today. But as we know, and as we covered, Dave, in the Cypherpunks two-part series, which was a pretty good one, there was a group of people who set a precedent, right? Something that had never happened before happened. And it was something that went against the system, right?
Oh, you sorry, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do excuse me. I was letting you flow.
You've fallen
No,
asleep, mate.
sorry. What?
I was just checking.
No, I'm definitely listening. I was just thought I was letting you flow because it sounded
No,
like.
it's right, mate.
But yeah, no, we learned all about this and these brave, crazily intelligent people who
Right.
over 30 years developed this decentralized system for us and kicked it off.
They did. And all of this, it kind of created a domino effect,
Yeah.
which ultimately was all about protecting privacy and civil liberties. It was more than money. And we all know that it started small, Bitcoin, right? And then it went global. So forget what you think about Bitcoin. Just look at the precedent, right? That's what this episode's about, no turning back. Because that group, they gave us several gifts, right? And we talked about those gifts, the actual technologies themselves in the Cypherpunks two-part series. But here we're just looking at from a slightly different angle, right? What they were, what they gave us to help move away from centralized control. But Dave, I'm just slightly worried that the next part is slightly geeky.
What are we going to do? There's plenty I can do here, mate. You crack on.
But if you bear with me slightly, it's short, but it's really important. Because the first thing we need to understand is that Bitcoin was open source and its design is public. Nobody owns or controls the concepts behind Bitcoin, right? So it's not
Just,
just Bitcoin.
just so that everybody knows how technical I am in this partnership here. I thought open source was something you did at a barbecue. Anyway, carry on.
Well, true enough. But in this case, anyone who has a phone, right? Anyone has a phone. Everyone has a phone. And anyone can answer this particular question now. Would you rather your phone is running code that is open to the public and we can all see what's happening, or totally hidden, closed source and only certain people can know? There's millions of phones and what those phones, or billions of phones around the planet, and what they're all doing in the background.
If that's a question, I wouldn't know the difference. I really wouldn't know what to look at even.
Right. Well, I think that's most people, Dave. And currently, in the world that we live in,
Hmm.
we've got Microsoft, we've got Apple. They're examples of closed source. And everyone's phone is important to them because we all do so much with our phones on a daily basis. But like I say, if you have a Microsoft device or an Apple device, and for the most part, Android as well, you're not allowed to know what the code is doing. It's proprietary, it's closed source. So it doesn't matter if you can't program, you're not a coder, right? It doesn't matter. It would be nice to know that people can see around the world what's going on. It might be that you have a friend who does code or is a programmer, might be able to check that for you, right? Because at the moment in the world that we live in, you're asked to trust big tech. Do you trust Microsoft? That's the question.
You know my answer to that,
Well, it's
Simon.
kind of a rhetorical question, I guess. But do we know that there are no backdoors? Do we know that there's no government going to come along and force them to open up what was once encrypted? Are they going to force that to be unencrypted and open? Well, you've no choice. But this is, and I'd love it if we move to a world in the future where, you know, all phones are running open source software. I'd love it if that was the case. But Bitcoin, the code was given away right from the very start. They said, here, look at this program. And if you like the idea, join us, run the program, help us create a network, or indeed take all of the code yourself and do whatever you like with it. Maybe go and create a totally different cryptocurrency, Davecoin, right? Anything you like.
I think there is one. I'm pretty sure
There probably is a Davecoin, to be fair.
everyone knows a Dave.
Well, there's lots of cryptocurrencies, but in fact, people did totally clone Bitcoin, right? So I guess many people have heard of Litecoin.
I've got
Yeah,
one. I've got one Litecoin.
yeah, like
I thought
right.
it was going to be the next big thing.
And Dogecoin as well. And there's thousands of other cryptocurrencies, and quite a number of them are built off the code that Bitcoin gave us in the first place. They are clones, they are forks or clones of Bitcoin. See, what's really, really important here is that the cypherpunks and the OGs, the original gangsters, as they're known, and the initial users of Bitcoin, they were never trying to dominate, right? They just gave us a huge gift. And I think a lot of people have lost sight of what they gave us and why. And there's a lot of fear and panic at the moment. And we're going to cover it a little bit more in the next episode, nonsense. In fact, I kind of slotted this one in because I promised we'd do nonsense, didn't I? And kind of slotted this episode in between because I think it gives us a bit of background.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, Dave, this channel is about decentralization. It's about humanity moving towards decentralization, right?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Right. But let's go a little bit lighthearted because I know you'll like this next part, Dave. It's a bit more lighthearted. Do you remember Napster?
Yes, of course I do. Yeah. That's like 2000. No, it was in the 90s, Napster.
Right, it was late 90s. It was actually 1999. It was in June. It was launched in June 1999. And like many of the young people, actually, we don't have many young people watching, Dave. Looking at our demographics, I think everyone's over 35.
Oh, you cheeky bastard.
be nice to have some young people commenting,
They
helping
know
us
it all
out a
already,
bit.
though, don't they? Know it all.
Well, that's the thing. Generally, we are trying to introduce this to people, you know, 30s, 40s, and over, because everybody needs to understand. But many of the people watching will remember Napster. And this is one of the first peer-to-peer pieces of software, specifically for music, if you don't know what it was. And everyone started immediately sharing MP3s with their friends in a decentralized peer-to-peer way. Your computer could connect directly to mine, etc., and around the globe, and people were sharing music with one another. They were sharing their libraries, and you could kind of browse what other people have, and you could just share.
Yeah, I can remember. It smells like Teen Spirit. It took me about a day and a half, 2 days to download it on my 46K connection.
Right. We had really slow modem speeds back
Yeah.
then, didn't we, when it first started?
Yeah, we really slow a dial-up connection. I mean, I can remember the sound of the dial-up connection, but somehow Duke Nukem worked. Duke Nukem worked peer-to-peer,
Right.
and it was brilliant.
Those games were just fantastic.
I don't know
But
how they
that's
did
peer to
that.
peer. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Now, if we had music sharing back then, and one other example, do you remember the Pirate Bay again? And we're not
yeah,
condoning any of this music sharing. That's not what we're doing here, right? This is something that happened in the past largely.
yeah,
But from a technology perspective, it allowed us to connect. And the Pirate Bay was one place that people used to go on and they used to search for stuff. And there's a piece of software that you could download that would allow you to share torrents, right? So you'd get a
yeah.
torrent file, and that torrent file was telling you that, okay, this guy's got a bit of that file over there, and that person's got another bit of that file over there. And let's just sort of like download all the bits. And you can see in the
Yeah.
image there, right?
And then someone would switch the computer off, and you'd be like, "Oh God!" Okay. Then they switch it on the next day, and
Well,
yeah,
that's it. If you'd only got one person that was sharing that file, it was difficult. But the thing about peer-to-peer, as soon as it starts to spread, as soon as I get a bit of that file that you're sharing, and then another person gets a bit, we're all sharing that same file. So very quickly, you get more and more people that are all sharing the same file, and it gets faster and faster.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, indeed, though, if you've got one person sharing something, you could be a bit slower. But anyway, again, we're not condoning any of this. We should probably say how naughty all of this is.
I don't
But
remember. I didn't do it. None of it. None of it was me. I'll have the UK police in here in a moment.
it might not be for that. But
Five of them. Five of
legality,
them.
legality aside for the moment, people were sharing all sorts of files with one another, like movies, applications, and music and all sorts. You see, it was the concept of direct peer-to-peer that was new. People were connecting directly to one another. There was no central server, no institution, and yet they were forming networks, right, amongst themselves. And those connections are permissionless. And that simply means that anyone can connect and no one can stop you from connecting. So, in summary, we've got three things: open source, peer-to-peer, and permissionless networks. And those are the cornerstones, Dave, that moved us towards the decentralized world, right?
Yeah.
This is the really important elements. These are what I would say are the gifts that the OGs and the cypherpunks gave us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's kind of where we'll end this episode, Dave. That's all I really want people to take away from this. Open source, peer-to-peer, permissionless, right? You don't have to start really looking into cryptocurrencies. You just need to know that these are good things, right?
Yeah, good things portrayed as bad things by centrally controlled systems. They portray them as bad. Oh, you can do this, you can do that. We have no control. They don't like the no control bit,
Well, I
which
think
just
you've
goes to
got
show how good they are.
right. Well, there's a lot of propaganda around. There's a lot of, well, we live in an information war, don't we? We all know we live in the middle of an information war. And that's why in the next episode, I want to talk about nonsense. I want to talk about stuff that doesn't make sense. But when we do that, I need us to be able to fall back to certain principles and go, the whole thing isn't rotten. Well, the whole of decentralization is actually an amazing thing. We know that.
Yeah.
So we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. We can't just, look at something and go, oh, I don't know. And we talked about in hope, didn't we? We talked in hope about um, people that are kind of regressing back to a fear of technology because they don't know what to believe.
Yeah, but I think that's endemic now. Nobody knows what to believe in anything. And I think that's a weapon in itself. I'm sorry I was smiling at your baby with the bathwater. Those things, when you're in a meeting and someone says something like that. The other one is we've got to let with this one, this business has to wash its own face.
Yeah. Our corporates. We're going to do an episode.
And then the other one is he left me holding the baby. Oh dear, they're
Yeah.
terrible those, aren't they?
Corporate speak.
I don't
Corporate
like those
speak.
much.
There's a lot of them,
Okay,
isn't there?
you know what? I've really understood this. It's super clear, and I understand what we got to do. We got to remember these three things that are so important. The gifts that the OG, the original gangsters gave us, and what has been built on top of these. Now, I really remember the peer-to-peer days because, I was just getting into computers. I had my little bubble Mac with the blue one, and I was getting into that. I was getting into downloading stuff. Obviously, can't talk about that because they'll be in to get me. But yeah. And I didn't realize what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea when I was playing Duke Nukem with my mate in a different city what we were doing, that we were creating our own little network. And that is what we're talking about. And everybody our age has probably done a little bit of that sort of stuff. Probably understands Pirate Bay, or if not, then at least Napster or online gaming, so we've already done it. This is what I take from this episode. We've already done it. We already kind of understand it. We just got to get our brains to get into gear with it all, right?
So if we do it with file sharing, if we do it with music, if we do it with online games, why don't we do it with money between us? So that's
Yeah,
what
well,
Bitcoin is.
yeah, not just money, but everything.
Right.
Yeah,
Voting, governance, everything.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that is decentralization. Absolutely 100%.
Would this explain a little bit of the panic among the elite ranks of today? Would this explain that why so much stuff's being pushed on us in such a short time? Do they feel this coming round the corner, Si?
Might very well be, Dave. Might very
I don't want
well
to
be.
speculate. I don't want to speculate. But anyway, okay. So thanks for watching. I hope you got as much as I did out of this episode. Thank you, Simon, for your amazing research and beautiful animations, I've got to say. And then, like I always say at the end of each episode, please subscribe and share and like. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Simon. I'll speak to you next time.
Cheers, Dave.